Thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate it. My name is Tommy Griffith. I started an SEO training course called ClickMinded. I'm going to give you a little bit of theory right at the beginning and some of the annoying stuff you've probably been dealing with all year, and then after that we'll get into the thick of things. So, what is SEO? Search engine optimization is the process of influencing natural search results so that your web pages appear for the keywords you'd like to rank for. SEO is not about buying keywords. This is not about calling up Google and asking them to place your website #1. This is not a very fast process. It's not a shady process. The industry has a reputation of being shady, and there are shady people in it, but I promise you it's not, and there's good people that do it. And it's not incredibly difficult either. That's the very counterintuitive piece of this, is once you get the founding principles of it, it's actually really easy. Does anyone know who Matt Cutts is? Matt Cutts, anyone? Anyone remember? So Matt Cutts is the head of the web spam team at Google. He's kind of the oracle of SEO. What I always say in my other trainings is that I kind of equate Matt Cutts, he's kind of like the Ben Bernanke of the Federal Reserve. What he says, everyone listens, and they dissect what he says word for word, and they say, what did he mean when he said this? And the whole industry sort of listens to what he says and then makes an assumption on how the search algorithm has shifted. So here's a quick video on Matt Cutts giving his take on SEO.
SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and essentially it just means trying to make sure that your pages are well represented within search engines. And there's an enormous amount of white hat, great quality stuff that you can do as a search engine optimizer. You can do things like making sure that your pages are crawlable, so you want them to be accessible. You want people to be able to find them just by clicking on links, and in the same way, search engines can find them just by clicking on links. You want to make sure that people use the right keywords. If you're using industry jargon or lingo that not everybody else uses, then a good SEO can help you find out, oh, these are keywords that you should have been thinking about. You can think about usability and trying to make sure that the design of the site is good. That's good for users and for search engines. You can think about how to make your site faster. Not only does Google use site speed in our rankings as one of the many factors that we use in our search rankings, but if you can make your site run faster, that can also make it a much better experience. So there are an enormous number of things that SEOs do, everything from helping out with the initial site architecture and deciding what your site should look like, and the URL structure and the templates and all that sort of stuff, making sure that your site is crawlable, all the way down to helping optimize for your return on investment. So trying to figure out, what are the ways that you're going to get the best bang for the buck, doing A/B testing, trying to find out, okay, what is the copy that converts, all those kinds of things. There's nothing at all wrong with all of those white hat methods. Now, are there some SEOs who go further than we would like? Sure. And are there some SEOs who actually try to employ black hat techniques? People that, hack sites or that keyword stuff and just repeat things or that do sneaky things with redirects? Yeah, absolutely. But our goal is to make sure that we return the best possible search results we can. And a very wonderful way that search engine optimizers can help is by cooperating and trying to help search engines find pages better. So SEO is not spam. SEO can be enormously useful. SEO can also be abused and it can be overdone. But it's important to realize that, we believe in an ideal world people wouldn't have to worry about these issues. But search engines are not as smart as people yet. We're working on it. We're trying to figure out what people mean. We're trying to figure out synonyms and vocabulary and stemming so that you don't have to know exactly the right word to search for what you wanted to find. But until we get to that day, search engine optimization can be a valid way to help people find what they're looking for via search engines.
You always have to take what Matt Cutts says with a grain of salt, right? He has to speak on behalf of Google. He has to talk to the masses. You have to take it within context a little bit. But for the most part, the point I'm trying to convey here is that SEO is not this manipulative thing that Google doesn't like, right? It's very acknowledged and accepted in the community. There's a big spectrum though, right? There's a large number of people doing great things, and there's scales down all the way to people who are circumventing the rules, breaking the law sometimes. So just keep that in mind. So, you know, every vertical is different, and every SEO will probably tell you something different. There's been a lot of different studies, but in general, there's about a 70-30 split between paid and organic search. Now, this really varies depending on what industry you're in. Some people will say this is totally off. Some people will say this is dead accurate. This is sort of the guide that we use at PayPal, that there's about 30% of searches will go to paid, and about 70% will go to the organic listings. So it's important to keep that distinction. And there's a number, you know, pretty much every year a new click-through rate study comes out. The first one happened in 2006. There was actually a data leak at AOL, and people took all this data from the search engines, and they tried to put together a click-through rate chart, right? Basically trying to determine what is a number one ranking worth, what is a number two ranking worth. And ever since then, there's been a lot of studies. It's usually agencies that go about doing it. So there's a lot of studies, there's a lot of variation. When Google changes the search engine results page, that changes click-through rates as well. So there's some queries now, a lot of like hotel-related queries, where you'll type something in and there's one organic result and the rest are paid. So it changes a lot, but for the most part, this is roughly the chart I use. This is sort of a culmination of a lot of different agency charts, but in general, about 35 to 40% of all clicks will go to the first result. But the big takeaway here is that the top 3 results take 60% of all the queries, and the top 5 take about 75%. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about query refinement, is that Google has delivered relevant results to the top 5 results so frequently that we're much more likely to change our search than we are to go to page 2 or page 3. And that's why 75% of clicks are going to the top 5 results. If you outsource your SEO to an agency, a lot of the times sneaky agencies will say, yeah, we have you on page 2 for 100 keywords. But in reality, because click-through rates are so low, you know, on the second page, and even in the bottom 5 results, you're still invisible if you're that low in the search. So this idea of query refinement, the idea that people are really only sifting through the top 5 results, is what makes SEO so important today. You have to be in the top 5 or you're nowhere. So this is what we're going to be talking about when we use a lot of jargon today. When we talk about title tags, this is the search snippet we're talking about. This should be in your notes. This is the title tag, right? The display URL below that in green, and this is the search snippet or the meta description. Just some of the things we'll be covering today. So there's we don't need to go through all of this, but there's a number of different algorithm updates that Google has created over the last decade or so. And as we said earlier, the search engine algorithm updates more than once a day, with minor updates that we probably don't notice. But there's roughly every 1.5 to 2 years, there's a major algorithm shift where they significantly change how they're doing things, and it really throws people off. The Hilltop update, the Florida update, Big Daddy. Some of them were very controversial because I think it was the Florida update was really tricky because they did it in November, and it really threw off people's estimates for the holidays. There are a lot of e-commerce sites that got burned during Christmas because Google changed their algorithm in November, and all of a sudden everyone lost their search engine positions. So we don't need to go through all of these, but the point here is that if you got really into SEO and you studied it for 5 years and then you stopped learning, you stopped staying up to date on it, you would be out of the loop within a year, maybe even less, because the algorithm's always changing, it's emphasizing different things, so it's the kind of practice that you need to constantly keep yourself updated with. So numerous algorithm updates over the last decade have occurred because Google realized very early on that search would become the backbone of everything they do. Google does a lot now, right? They're Google Maps and Google Docs, and they're in a lot of different areas. Google Drive just came out, right, to go head-to-head with Dropbox, and they released those augmented reality glasses. I mean, they do everything. But search is the backbone of everything that they do. You guys remember this commercial?